All right, family, welcome back. We got episode 2 of my wealth code series. All right, in this episode, I'm gonna break down what you need to realize that the current money system is broken. All right, so before we go into how we're gonna build, I gotta get you to understand what currently is. The money system is broken. And I'm gonna start with the quote. Before you learn to create wealth, you must understand why you were set up to fail in the first place. All right. So, and I'm going to explain this over 4 points. So, point number one, what currency was supposed to be. Money and currency, it was never meant to be just printed paper with no intrinsic value. Let me go deeper. Money was supposed to be represented by something real, right? Something tangible, sustainable, like something you can touch, grab, something that actually is real, material. So, for example, gold, silver, copper. All right, that's something that money is supposed to represent. And we haven't in the US had any real representation of our money since the 70s. So we're talking about 50 years of the money system not actually being worth anything or representing anything, also known as backed by anything. All right? That's important and we're going to get back to that. Point number 2, inflation is a hidden tax. It can be argued that inflation is stealing from you every single day. Every year, your money buys less. Inflation really punishes the people that save. If you're a saver, you just stack all your bread and you just go put it in the bank or in your bed, right? In your wall. Some people do stuff like that, right? Because they don't trust the banks. Inflation punishes you. Because by default, if you're not growing your assets, then you're shrinking your future assets. Let me give you an example. If you saved $100,000 in the bank 20 years ago, it has lost over a third of its purchasing power. I'm going to say that another way. If you had $100,000 20 years ago, you put it in the bank. Today, it can buy $66,000 worth of goods. That's what you can get. Right? You can't it is lost value actually. It's not the same $100,000 than when you put it in the bank. Right? That can be argued as legalized theft. That's something that's taking away from you each and every moment. All right. It's not an accident though. This is how the system's designed. Point number 3, the illusion of investment growth. Most people believe that long-term investing in the market automatically builds your wealth. But actually, when you factor in the cost of living, most gains are just keeping you from falling behind. You're not actually moving ahead, right? You're just keeping up. So, quick story or quick example. I've spent over a decade advising clients and managing investment portfolios, but even I, right, studied, went to college for this and everything, was stunned when I looked at a 100-year chart of the S&P going back to the 20s. All right. So if you invested, let's say, $10,000 back in the 1920s and invested that for 100 years to effectively today, right? After a full century of investing, your portfolio would have only kept up, right? Kept up with the cost of living. Now, on paper, let me be real specific. On paper, if you invested $10,000, it might have grown to $100,000. Just easy math, by the way. But it might have grown to $100,000. And you like, I like that. That looked good, bro. I'm real excited. Blah blah blah. I'm just ecstatic that I've grown this 10,000 to 100,000. But here's the thing. Let's flip the script and say there was a house when you had that $10,000 in the 1920s. There was a house that was worth $10,000, and that same house today is now worth $100,000. Did you get ahead? I would argue no, right? You didn't get ahead. Your on paper, your money grew, but so did everything around you grow in the cost of living, right? That inflation that we talk about so much. And if you still don't get it, let me tell you to you a different way. When you first started working, right, you now likely don't live with your parents anymore. You don't have that life float anymore. You jumped into a pool. You took that risk. You started swimming. So in that example, you didn't drown though. Great job. You did not drown. Very proud of you. But you didn't actually go anywhere. You just stayed afloat. You didn't actually get to the end of the pool. So that's not success. The system or mainstream would tell you that that's success because on paper, $100,000. But what is $100,000 in terms of what everything else costs? That's what you should be asking yourself. So by that definition, these examples, we know that real wealth isn't about just keeping up, right? It's about creating sovereignty and growth and having impact. That's real wealth. Point number four, the debt system. Is it leverage or is it a trap? Right? We need to really define that and talk about it because people say, "Oh yeah, well you can't afford to buy that house. Just go leverage the bank, right? Just go to the bank." So even if you understand inflation and investments, most people get stuck though in the final layer, which is the debt, with the debt of the system. But in reality, it likes to lock you into lifelong repayment cycles, right? You'll pay interest, penalties, and fees, and these things will quietly siphon your wealth away. Quietly too, just low key. You'll look up and be like, bro, where's all my money going? It's interesting. I was looking um, at a property the other night just because I'm a nerd. I like to look into these things and just kind of work through things on a Excel sheet just because I'm curious. I was looking at a property that cost $700,000, right? And so I was like, I wonder if I worked that out, what would I have paid over the course of those 30 years? And current interest rates are about 7%, right? If you get a mortgage. And I think that's if you have good credit, let alone if your credit questionable. That being said, I ran the numbers on 7% interest. At the end of 30 years, which is the average mortgage that we get right to buy a house, it would cost me $1.7 million to own that property, right? That's what I would have paid. Sorry about that. I'm out here outside on the patio. But that's what I would have paid over the course of those 30 years. $1.7 million, more than double. Double is 1.4 million. And then I added another, I would have had to have added another $300,000 on top of that. So imagine going to a mob, right, in the movies, a gangster, and he like, oh yeah, you come to me at this time, and you know, I can take care of you, but I'm gonna need this. You kind of making a deal with the devil, right? Because you know that they're gonna get over on you. Well, in this example, the bank effectively did that, right? The bank not even just double. The bank asked me to pay like two and a half times what that house costs. So they want me to pay them back the what they gave me on top. So the principal, the 700,000, and then they want me to pay double, right? And most of us would think, oh, that should be good enough there. No, you're gonna give me on top of that another 50% of what this property costs. Effectively, that's crazy, right? That is what we can consider that's a trap. If you don't have it, if you needed the bank in that example, that's a trap, right? Because most of you aren't going to be able to afford $1.7 million dollars. At the end of the day, that's what it costs. We can say it's broken up to these small payments over time, but at the end of the day, you coming out of pocket of $1.7 million dollars. Now, if you have $1.7 million dollars, now I would agree that's leverage, right? Because now instead of spending your $1.7 million, dollars, you could spend the bank's $1.7 million, dollars, and then you can go ahead and use that money to profit somewhere else or invest in this business or start that business. That's leverage, but it can't be leverage if you don't have anything to begin with. That's a trap. So, in conclusion, today the money in your pocket is an IOU. The cash, the US dollar is an IOU backed by nothing. I'm sorry, it is backed by something. It's backed by the trust that you and everybody else has in the system. But what happens when that trust erodes? Because that system has shown that it will devalue your labor, your savings, and your future. And I broke that down for you over those four main points. So I have a call to action for you. Take a moment today and ask yourself, what does your money actually represent? Is it backed by anything real? Or is it just a promise that you are hoping won't be broken? I need you to really think about that. I love y'all. Peace.